It's almost a dream, right? When you talk about agility, because the type of people that they bring in are people who are willing to take risks, right? Because they've taken a risk working for a startup.
Hi, all. Welcome to the next vlog for Tribe. And today I'm joined with Rauf Azam, who is an experienced coach and has had coaching gigs right through Europe and the Middle East and has some really unique perspectives with startups as well as large corporates. Welcome, Rauf.
Thank you very much, Sean. Glad to be here. Honored to
Love
be here,
having
in fact.
no love having you here, man. It's been quite a testing time for all of us. How are you managing COVID-19 and being based in Dubai?
Well, I think there's two aspects of this question. The first one is how am I doing it myself, right? So how am I coping individually and personally? Personally, I'm finding it quite tough working from home. Being an agile coach, we like to be quite close to people, right? Understanding people's body language, creating rapport and what have you. And so that's one bit that I'm finding a little bit difficult at the moment. But also, when you work from home, you can't switch off, right?
Yeah,
So I've got my office here at the moment at home, and when I want to finish work, normally in the office, laptop closes, my work hat on the desk, and I leave and I've switched off. And even the car drive home, right? The commute home helps me just to switch off and relax. So mentally, it's been a challenge not being
yeah,
able to switch off. But in terms of the region as well, we've had testing times. So I think just like the rest of the globe, we've had a lot of people lose their jobs. But Dubai is such a place where once you don't have work, 95% of people will leave because the majority of us are expats and we'll go back home.
yeah.
So with my current client as well, we've had testing times where we've had to let a number of people go due to like lack of business and people being locked down, not being able to go out and spend and what have you. However,
Yes.
over the past couple of months, especially, we've actually been hiring. Right, so we're looking for talent out there, which I think is quite positive. And even if you look at the market generally in Dubai, especially at the moment, I'm seeing a lot of companies now starting to take a little bit more risks considering COVID and
Oh,
trying to
fantastic.
bring on talent. The
Yeah.
first month we were looking just within the region because of lockdown, and we interviewed some very good people. But now over the past like 6 to 8 weeks, we've been looking to bring people from all over the world. So we've been speaking to people in the UK, Australia, a few people in Europe.
Yes.
So and I think people are starting to realize now that yeah, COVID-19 is a threat. Okay,
Yeah.
it's had a huge impact on economies throughout the world. However, we need to take these precautions and we need to understand. We need to adapt, right?
Mm.
Just as we talk about how we adapt and we agile within organizations, we need to adapt as a species, right?
Awesome. Hey, first and foremost, keep yourself and the family safe, right? I know you've got a young family as well, Rolf. So hope everything is all up from this point. But look, really keen to explore your perspective of an agile coach. In particular, having experience in both a startup and a large corporate. So, in your experience, Raul, what are some of the differences in being an agile coach for a startup versus a large corporate? And if you can share that with us.
Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, we've been interviewing quite a few people to come on board onto our current client at the moment, and a lot of
Yes.
people talk about people, process, and technology, right? And they're very important. So let's take it from that lens then. So don't get me wrong, the startup life is a roller coaster of a ride, right? But I feel as an agile coach, working for a startup, I think it's almost a dream, right? When you talk about agility, because the type of people that they bring in are people who are willing to take risks, right? Because they've taken a risk working for a startup. Okay.
Yeah.
And I've
Yes.
worked in startups in Amsterdam and in Dubai as well. And I actually advised another startup in the UK. So I see this trend with startups. So people who come there, they have a particular type of personality, which is very compatible with agility. So taking risks, right? They're very
Mm.
innovative a lot of the time. And this is one of, from a people point of view, this is one of the biggest things that I've noticed that in the startup, especially in this region, because you've got people with a huge expat community here in Dubai. You've got people from all over the world. They're not afraid to fail. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which in this region in particular is almost like a unicorn, right? It's hard to find. So when you work in, say, in the airline industry or in banking or even in, something like oil and gas, we've got very stringent processes in place. Okay,
Mm.
and they're there for a reason, right? Airline for safety of the passengers. If you look at even in oil and gas, and even if you look at banking as well, you need to have these processes in place so people's assets, their funds are safe. The processes within a startup, you can change them, you mold them as you go, right? They're a lot more agile in that sense. So that's a great thing within a startup as well. And then
Mm.
technology as well. Being a startup, not having a huge customer base, and if you look back at the other two things, the people and process, those kind of support the technology part of the change as well. So if you have the right people who are innovative, who are experimental, who want to work, who want to try new things, they will try
Yeah.
new technologies to help enhance the organization. And then when you're a coach and you have these three foundations in place, it can work wonders for you. However,
Yes.
let me just flip it over to the other side, because I've talked a lot of the advantages, right? So startups generally, what they want to do, they want to bring people from, they'll have the workforce they'll have, the people they will have will be less, but they'll try and get quality. So they'll bring people from the more developed markets. When as an agile coach, when you've got different levels of maturity within a squad or a domain or a business unit, it can be quite challenging, because you might have one
Yeah.
person who is almost at the forefront of world agility, so to speak, and then you've got
Yeah.
people that we've brought in from other organizations who need coaching and need a lot of coaching. So
Yeah.
we and then this is a huge challenge, right? Let's look at the big organizations now. So within this particular region, there's probably about 3 or 4 very, very large organizations. If I take the top 3, so you're looking at airline, banking, and oil and gas. So
Yes.
if you look at people, these organizations have been in this region for a long time. And I think and generally speaking, the level of natural attrition within this region is quite low. And personally, I think this is detrimental to the growth of any organization. If one person is in an organization for so long within the same role,
Mm.
I find it, in my experience, I've not seen people being able to grow in one role for more than 5 years. And even
Mm.
that's a
Mm.
stretch, right?
Mm.
But you
Mm.
can stay in
Mm.
the same organization and you can switch roles, right? So you're
Mm.
learning more about the organization, you're growing as an individual, different experiences, different people, so I believe that's good. But if you're in the same role for so long,
Mm.
you become very comfortable with people who have been in such a comfort zone for so long. The resistance is very, very tough, right? It's
Mm.
very high. So that's one thing, that one of the biggest challenges that we have within the organization, or a big organization. So the people, they're on autopilot. They come in, they do what they need to do, and they go home. And even if you talk about people being owners of the application or the system or the process, or even the part of the organization that they're working in, that's
Yes.
lacking. So the
Yes.
fundamentals are not there, right? So we almost need to take them back to scratch, right? So we try and talk to them about their journey, okay, where they
Yes.
started, when they came, try and help them
Yes.
recollect, that kind of burning desire that they had when they first came here. So within bigger organizations, I believe the key way to make change is to intrinsically motivate individuals. Okay,
Yes.
so we need to, so our strategy with whatever change it is, right?
Yes.
Let's take an agile transformation. What's our purpose? What are we trying to aim? The second point is the mastery. Okay, and I believe this is probably the most difficult out of the three to kind of get people to change, because this comes from the desire within to be the best, right? So mastery is one thing that we need to work on. And then the final thing when we talk about intrinsically motivating people was the autonomy, right?
Mm.
I honestly believe that this is probably one of the easiest things to do. However, there's resistance to change, and there's a cultural thing that we need to do. So, for example, typically in some of these organizations that I've mentioned, like oil and gas, banking, airline, I believe that if you empower people and you give them autonomy, you get the best out of them. These little things that we can do to make the changes. I believe that's one of the easiest things that you can do, and you can start making a change straight away.
Wow, Rauf, that's amazing, man. That was absolutely amazing. I reckon you could write a book with that answer. So let me ask you. So with that in mind, as a coach, what do you think? So going back to startups, and then we'll go and talk about corporates again. But with startups, as a coach, then what do you think are the most critical things, one or two, to focus on with startups?
Okay. So the people are the most important things, right? I believe if you don't get the right people, you're almost setting your organization to mimic some of the big organizations, which is not particularly a bad thing. But I believe some of the startups do that so they can get somebody, like they may get somebody from finance, for example, who can come in and set up all the processes and what have you. However, one thing I didn't mention in the previous question was the amount of red tape you have in some of the bigger organizations, right? So people was number two. Let's go back to number one. So I believe that the organizational structure needs to be defined in a way that you can adapt to what the market requires. So, for example, if I have an organization where we're going to be, I don't know, a delivery service for food, for example, right?
Yes.
I need to see, right, what do I need to do to be able to deliver that service, right? And then you almost reverse engineer your organization. So one of the biggest ride-hailing companies in the world, they branch out to food, they branch out to logistics and what have you, So they take that, you can take that blueprint of your organizational structure, which hopefully is lean by that point, and you can take that as a start for the next vertical. And if you get the right people and the right organization, I believe number three will be the process.
Yes.
Right. So and that's one, like I think they're the three points that I would name. So looking at the organizational structure, make sure it's lean, making sure it serves your organization, and then you look at the people, which is the most important thing, and then together they'll build the right process and build your organization.
Yes, fantastic. Hey, it's from that answer, you can see, and we've seen this, right? You can see how startups have influenced large corporates to work a different way, right? Hence, agile ways of working, new ways of working was born, right? Innovation, and we need to change. But I was wondering if you can give us a perspective on what do you think startups can learn from large organizations? Are there any lessons there that startups can learn rather than the one-way traffic of startups influencing large corporates? Absolutely.
So in the field that we're in, right, I think what we can learn, or what the startups can learn, is something from some of the transformations that the larger organizations have attempted, right, and how successful they've been, and some of the pain points they've had. I think even if you went in there with it as simple as just taking a business analyst and just mapping out their processes, and then taking them back, and then seeing how you can make them lean, would be something that you could learn. Startups can go in and talk to people, right? Walk on the floor. There's studies on like, go and see what people are doing. So between working in large organizations and startups, one of the biggest things that I didn't mention earlier was funding, right? So some of the banks are plowing millions and millions of pounds, dollars, dirhams, you mention it, into these transformations. Working for startups, we don't have those funds, right? So we're almost forced to be lean. So it's almost, if you can go and see what they've invested in and see what's worked, right? Even if it's from tools, right? Like, Jira is something that people use straight away, but it requires licenses. There's free versions that are out there. Let's see what impact it has.
Yeah, wouldn't it be great from that, Rauf, that we start seeing, or we're already seeing, and we have so here in Australia as well, a close collaboration between startups and large corporates, because together, I think the mindset and the traditional processes and what you can learn from that together, we're better.
But from what you said, I think you hit the nail on the head. If they collaborate with each other, the learnings can be both ways, right? I'm starting up a digital bank, Sean. You've got a multinational bank. Can you advise me, and I can show you how we're adapting to the market, and then we can work together. And competition, right? Competition is what we thrive on. What makes us better?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, now, final question, and this is likely going to be the toughest question of them all, Rauf. And that is, it's back on yourself, Rauf. Yeah. So look, with the wealth of experience that you have stretching from Europe all the way through to the great things you're achieving now in Dubai, where are you taking your career from this point, Rauf?
Sean, this is in previous interviews I've had where people have asked me this question. It's the question I least enjoy answering, right? And Sean, I've always, and to be honest, I've always been quite vague, right? Because again, within our industry, we preach being adaptable and agile, and see, and probing and see where you end up. But right now, with COVID-19. I find it like previously I used to think you can't really plan for more than a year or 2 years, like wherever you are, especially if you're you're an expat. But with COVID-19 now, we don't know what's going to happen like globally next month, right? So most places in the world, they're seeing a downward trend in the R rate in COVID cases. But then there's talks of the second wave in certain parts of the world. The economy has been hit globally. But then we see some organizations like the Amazons of the world, flourishing. So I honestly find it a really, really tough question. What I would like to say is that I really hope people take the right precautions and we help get over this global pandemic together and safely, so we can restore some normality. So maybe next time we speak, I can give you an answer, on what I achieved. But I think let me answer that question with a slightly different lens now. But I think in this particular region, I would like to stay here, right? I would like to affect agility and the way organizations are run in this region. I believe that there is a lot of fat in organizations here. We can become more lean, we can become more agile, we can adapt quicker, we can add value quicker, we can address the problems that the customers have. I don't believe that we have that mindset, right? Let's look at organizations. Again, I believe that the way that they've been structured is, all right, this is the organization we need as human resourcing. We still, people still address people as resources, which makes my skin crawl, right? But, let's see how we can change the organization to fit or achieve what the customer wants, because ultimately the customer is right. If we don't have customers, the organization will not exist.
Amazing. I do have one more question. I'm going to spring this onto you, and that is, Rauf, how would you like to work with us in the tribe community? How can the tribe community and you collaborate together and help each other grow?
So, Sean, throughout my career, I'm a big believer that um, collaboration is key, right? You build bridges and you build relationships. And again, if you help, again, another thing I believe strongly in is that if you help others, karma will come around, right? And look, I believe there's a lot of work to do here, Sean. But we need the right people.
Yeah,
I believe with what you guys are doing at Tribe, with the model that you have, I believe that you can be adaptable, quite agile
yeah,
to get the right people with the right mindset to do some really good work, especially in this region, right?
yes, yes,
And yeah, I know the affiliations you have with other organisations that I admire as well. I think if we can make a positive change and we can have fun
yes,
doing that,
yes.
I'll sign up. Positive change and fun
Absolutely.
is what I'd want to do.
Absolutely. Sign me up for that anytime as well, Raoul.
Yeah.
Raoul, thank you very much for your time. That was an absolute pleasure. Your experience speaks volume and it really speaks for itself. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I have, Raoul.
Yeah, no, Sean, the pleasure was all mine. Thank you so much for the opportunity. It was great speaking to you. And I wish Tribe and yourself all the best whilst doing
We'll
it.
love that. Yeah, we'll love that, Raoul. No, no doubt. No doubt we've got something coming, I think. Thank you
Yeah,
very much.
thank you.
Cheers, man.
With what you guys are doing at Tribe, with the model that you have, I believe that you can be adaptable